Have you ever wondered why someone else's words, just sounds from their mouth, can hijack your entire nervous system and throw you into a storm of anger, irritation, or humiliation? Carl Jung believed that we are not truly disturbed by others, but by the unconscious content they awaken within us. What bothers us is not them, it's us. The truth is unsettling. Most of what we call anger is actually repressed pain masquerading as power. You don't get angry because someone disrespected you. You get angry because they touched a wound inside you that you never healed. Jung called this the shadow, the part of ourselves we refuse to see, the emotions we disown, the parts of our story we bury so deep that when someone unknowingly pokes it, we erupt. The first key to never being bothered by anyone is brutal self-honesty. Ask yourself, what exactly did that person's words awaken in me? If you can observe your emotion without acting it out, you are already transforming it. Most people never do this. They blame, react, shout, or shut down, forever prisoners of their inner wounds. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The second key is releasing the illusion of control. We spend our lives trying to manage people's opinions, behavior, tone, and treatment toward us, as if we can architect the outer world to protect our fragile inner world. This is ego trying to avoid pain instead of processing it. True strength lies in realizing that your peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from integrating the parts of yourself that get triggered. You will stop being offended the moment you stop abandoning yourself. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them insult you. As long as you stay rooted in your wholeness, they have no power. The day you stop needing everyone to behave a certain way is the day you become emotionally invincible. This is not coldness. This is freedom. And Jung knew it. Your triggers are invitations, not enemies. If you want to transcend anger forever, stop fighting people. Start meeting your shadow. That's where the war ends. Imagine this. Someone cuts you off in traffic, or mocks you in public, or ignores your message, and instantly, your stomach tightens, your heart races, and your mind fills with harsh words. But did you ever pause to ask, who exactly is reacting inside me? Carl Jung taught that what we call our personality is often a mask, what he named the persona. It's the socially acceptable version of us we show to the world. But beneath that mask is the shadow, a chaotic emotional realm of denied anger, shame, jealousy, fear, and insecurity. And here's the trap. The shadow is usually the first to react. The moment you feel disrespected or invisible, it's the shadow that rises and demands revenge, validation, or escape. And because most people are unaware of it, they think this reaction is their true self, but it's not. It's the wounded, unconscious part of the psyche screaming to be heard. Every time someone makes you angry, you're not seeing them. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the secret doorway out of suffering. If someone's arrogance enrages you, perhaps your shadow holds a suppressed desire to assert yourself. If someone's coldness hurts you, maybe your shadow feels unseen and unloved. And until you recognize this, you will live in constant reactivity, blaming the world for what is actually a reflection of your disowned self. But the moment you catch it, the instant you say, this reaction is my shadow speaking, you interrupt the cycle. You step back from the emotional storm and enter a space of awareness where no insult can penetrate. You become the watcher, not the prisoner. This is not easy. The shadow is ancient, emotional, and powerful. It will scream, tempt, guilt-trip, and shame you into reacting. But each time you choose awareness over impulse, you reclaim power. You turn emotion into information. You begin to heal the very wound the world keeps pressing. And in that healing, you no longer need to fight people. They simply lose their power to hurt you. The most dangerous thing about anger isn't its intensity, it's its invisibility. Jung's wisdom gives us the mirror. The question is, will you look into it before the next outburst hijacks your life? There's a moment, brief, quiet, and easily missed, between the trigger and your reaction. Someone insults you, you feel a heat rising in your chest, your jaw clenches, your thoughts sharpen like knives. But in that split second, there is a choice. Carl Jung taught that the ego, the conscious part of your psyche, loves to claim ownership over every emotion. I am angry. I am hurt. But this is a lie the ego repeats so often that we forget there's a difference between having an emotion and being it. You are not your anger. You are the one who feels it. You are not your sadness. You are the one who observes it. This shift in perspective is not intellectual. It's existential. The moment you stop identifying with the emotion and start witnessing it, you disarm it. Emotions only control you when you believe they are you. But when you become the observer, a strange thing happens. The emotion loses its grip. The storm still swirls, but you're no longer drowning in it. You're watching from the shore. Jung believed this capacity, to observe without judgment, is the foundation of individuation, the journey toward psychological wholeness. But it requires radical honesty. When you say, "I'm just angry because they were rude," you're still trapped. But when you say, "There is anger rising in me," you reclaim authorship. You step out of the puppet strings of reactivity. The truth is, most people never escape their emotions because they never question their origin. They live in a trance of, "They made me feel this way." But no one can make you feel anything. They trigger what is already inside you. And if you're full of buried pain, shame, or fear, the world will constantly press on those wounds. The answer isn't to avoid people or control every situation. The answer is to become so rooted in awareness that you no longer flinch when those buttons are pushed. You see them, you feel them, but you don't become them. Like clouds in the sky, your emotions come and go, but you are the sky itself, vast and untouched. That is your true power, and once you grasp it, nobody, not your partner, not your boss, not your enemy, can steal your peace again. Every time someone irritates you, you're being given a gift, though it never feels like one. The rude comment, the dismissive tone, the betrayal, the manipulation, these are the moments that awaken your anger. And yet Carl Jung would say, they are also the moments that reveal your shadow, because the trigger is never about them. It's about you. Not in the sense of blame, but in the sense of opportunity. Why do you get furious when someone disrespects you, while someone else shrugs it off? Why do you feel crushed when you're excluded, but someone else feels free? The answer lies in your unresolved material, the parts of you that you've disowned, repressed, or hidden from yourself. Jung called this the shadow, everything within you that your ego refuses to see. And it's this hidden part that reacts so violently when the world mirrors it back to you. When someone lies to you, your reaction might have less to do with the lie, and more to do with your own past betrayals, your own tendency to deceive, your own fear of being naive. When someone criticizes you, it might touch a buried belief that you're not good enough, planted in childhood, reinforced through time, now inflamed by a single careless word. And so the trigger becomes your teacher. If you're willing to pause, breathe, and ask, why does this bother me so much? What is this revealing about me? You transform the moment from a source of anger into a portal for growth. Jung taught that all projections must eventually be withdrawn. What you see in others is often what you've refused to see in yourself. You call someone arrogant, but maybe it's your own denied pride speaking. You're enraged by someone's weakness, but maybe it's your fear of appearing weak. In this way, every annoyance is a reflection. And if you want to stop being so easily disturbed, stop trying to fix the world and start exploring your own inner chaos. The more shadow work you do, the fewer buttons you have to push. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've integrated your broken pieces. You've embraced your humanity. And now, when people try to trigger you, they find there's nothing left to provoke, just a calm, clear presence that no longer needs to defend itself. What if the version of you that gets angry isn't the real you at all? What if it's just a mask, an identity you've built to protect yourself? Carl Jung understood that beneath every outburst of emotion lies the ego, that fragile, insecure structure we mistake for our true self. The ego hates to be insulted, corrected, ignored, or overshadowed. It thrives on control, praise, and certainty. So when life disrupts these illusions, when challenges your status or simply overlooks you, the ego panics. It flares up in rage not because you're harmed, but because it feels irrelevant. But the ego is not you. It's a psychological defense mechanism, necessary for survival at first, but suffocating if left unchecked. The more you identify with it, the more you'll feel threatened by every little thing. Jung's deeper work was to help people disidentify from the ego, not to destroy it, but to stop worshiping it. When you realize that your value doesn't come from others' opinions, when you see that you don't have to win every argument, defend every slight, or prove your worth, a strange peace begins to arise. Not passivity, but clarity. You start to understand, this isn't about me. It's about the part of me that still needs validation. And in that moment, you no longer have to react. You can observe the feeling without being possessed by it. You can feel anger rising and let it pass, like a wave that comes and goes, without clinging to it, without acting from it. You become spacious inside. Jung believed this is the beginning of individuation, the process of becoming whole. As you transcend the ego, you no longer fear losing face or status. You don't need to control how others see you. You stop being baited by every insult or injustice, not because you're indifferent, but because you've outgrown the part of you that needs to fight. You're no longer driven by pride or fear. You've stepped into something deeper, something stronger than anger, inner authority. The kind that no longer needs to shout to be heard, no longer needs to react to prove it's real. You've met your true self, the self that simply is, unshaken, calm, free. People often confuse detachment with coldness, as if becoming emotionally free means you stop caring. But Carl Jung saw detachment as a higher form of love, a love that is not enslaved by need, not reactive, not rooted in ego. When someone insults you and you feel the burn to respond, what is actually happening? You're not just reacting to the words, they're triggering something deeper, a need to be respected, seen, or validated. And the moment that need is touched, anger floods in. You lash out, not because of the insult, but because of the wound it found. Jung's wisdom shows us that to be unbothered, you must first stop depending on external approval for your inner peace. Detachment begins when you stop allowing others to control your emotional weather. It's not that you stop feeling, it's that you stop being ruled by those feelings. You can hear criticism without collapsing. You can witness disrespect without losing your center. You no longer hand over your peace like a payment for someone's acceptance. This kind of strength is quiet. It's the power of presence, the ability to hold space within yourself even while the world around you grows chaotic. Jung called this the process of integration, when your shadow, ego, and persona are no longer battling each other, but are seen, understood, and contained within a unified self. That self is not numb. It feels deeply, but it chooses when and how to act. You become like a mountain, not because you're unfeeling, but because you're grounded. Detachment, in this sense, is an act of supreme compassion toward yourself. You no longer beg to be loved, validated, or avenged. You no longer seek conflict to feel alive. You stand rooted, knowing who you are. You can walk away not out of weakness, but out of freedom. You no longer fight to be heard. You've made peace with silence. This is not emotional repression. It is emotional mastery. Jung understood that when you detach, you're not turning away from life. You're finally stepping into it, fully conscious, no longer controlled by the unconscious needs of the ego. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel without being consumed. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Most people ignore this. They blame, react, and rage against those who trigger them. But the truth is far more humbling and far more liberating. The people who annoy, provoke, or anger you are not just random enemies of your peace. They are mirrors, reflecting back the parts of you that remain unhealed, unconscious, or disowned. That's why one person's sarcasm might feel unbearable to you, while another barely notices. It's not the action, it's the wound it touches. If you were shamed as a child for being wrong, then being corrected by someone might feel like an attack. If you were ignored, then being overlooked in a conversation might ignite a deep, irrational fury. It's not the present moment that's hurting you. It's the past, resurfacing in disguise. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden self, made up of traits we suppress, deny, or reject. And here's the twist: insight. You stop giving strangers the keys to your emotional well-being. When someone annoys you now, you pause, not to suppress your feelings, but to decode them. What part of me just got poked? What am I afraid this says about me? This inquiry breaks the spell of anger. You begin to use triggers not as weapons but as teachers. Each irritation becomes a doorway, each enemy a mirror. You no longer fear offense because you've turned inward and faced the source. Jung believed that this kind of inner work is the path to individuation, the process of becoming whole, not perfect, but conscious. And when you are conscious, nobody can pull you into their drama without your permission. You see through the mirror, and finally, you see yourself. Imagine a life where no insult sticks, no rejection breaks you, and no manipulation works on you. That life begins the moment you reclaim your inner authority, the moment you stop outsourcing your sense of self to other people's opinions, moods, or reactions. Carl Jung taught that the path to individuation is a path of psychic decentralization. You must stop orbiting around others and start anchoring in your own center. Most people live in a psychological trance, always adjusting themselves to fit into someone else's expectation. You laugh when you're not amused, agree when you don't believe, apologize when you've done nothing wrong, all to avoid being disliked, judged, or abandoned. But this survival strategy comes at a cost. You lose yourself. And with that loss comes anxiety, resentment, and a subtle rage at everyone who pulls you away from your truth. This is why certain people bother you, not because they're powerful, but because you've handed them power over your emotional state. The path to freedom begins when you stop asking, "Do they approve of me?" and start asking, "Do I approve of myself?" You become unbothered, not by numbing your emotions, but by reclaiming authorship over your own story. If someone insults you, you examine it like data, not a personal prophecy. If they reject you, you remember, their reaction says more about them than it ever could about you. And if they try to guilt, shame, or provoke you, you pause and ask, why do they need to control my emotion? What part of themselves are they avoiding by focusing on me? This shift disarms the entire game. Jung believed that true power is psychic autonomy, the ability, your emotional clarity no matter the storm around you. The moment you stop being reactive to others, you become something they can't control. You develop what Jung called a solid ego, not inflated or fragile, but grounded. People will still try to push you. Life will still test you, but you no longer flinch. You no longer shrink. You observe. You decide. And that's when you know, nobody owns your inner world but you. That is the essence of calm. That is the birth of true strength. There's a difference between being detached and being indifferent. Indifference is cold, dismissive, a shield forged in bitterness. Detachment, on the other hand, is warm awareness without entanglement, a kind of deep, compassionate clarity that no longer needs to react. Carl Jung understood this difference profoundly. He knew that emotional freedom doesn't come from shutting down your feelings, but from developing enough inner space to observe them without becoming enslaved by them. Detachment is a silent weapon, not because it suppresses your emotions, but because it gives you space to see through them. When someone yells, criticizes, rejects, or tries to dominate you, your nervous system is wired to respond. That surge of emotion, that need to defend, justify, attack, or withdraw, that is your ego screaming for survival. But the detached mind doesn't follow that impulse. It recognizes the wave of reactivity and chooses not to ride it. Instead, it watches. Not from apathy, but from mastery. You're not trying to win the emotional war anymore. You've stepped out of it completely. You realize that most people are speaking from their own unconscious pain, not from truth. Jung wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Detachment is the act of making it conscious. You see that their anger is projection. Their cruelty is fear. Their manipulation is their own lostness. And so you stop reacting, not to punish them, but to preserve yourself. This is not about superiority. It's about clarity. When you're no longer baited by provocation, when you no longer need to explain your peace or justify your boundaries, you become unreachable by chaos. That doesn't mean you stop feeling. You still care. But you don't cling. You still listen. But you don't absorb. You are present, but not imprisoned by the emotional storm of others. That is the art of detachment, being fully alive, fully aware, and yet completely unshaken. It's not escape. It's evolution. It's not about becoming a monk in a cave. It's about becoming untouchable in the middle of your life. In arguments, you stay calm. In tension, you breathe deeper. In confrontation, you remain rooted. That's how you win, not by overpowering others, but by no longer giving them the power to shake your inner world. The final step in never getting angry or bothered by anyone lies in embracing a profound truth Carl Jung taught. True freedom comes from integrating your shadow, the hidden, unconscious parts of yourself. Message from your shadow self, a part of you longing for recognition. You begin to transform it. Instead of reacting blindly, you listen. You ask, what is this anger really about? What part of me feels unseen, disrespected, or powerless? By bringing these feelings into conscious awareness, you reduce their power to hijack your mind and heart. This is shadow work, an honest, compassionate dialogue with your inner darkness, transforming it from a source of chaos into a wellspring of strength and authenticity. The result? You no longer need to defend against others' provocations because you've healed the root of your sensitivity. Your reactions become choices, not compulsions. You reclaim your emotional sovereignty. Jung said individuation, the path to wholeness, requires embracing all aspects of yourself, light and dark. Only then can you stand unshaken amidst life's storms. You understand that others' attempts to bother you are often projections of their own shadows. You respond not with anger or fear, but with grounded presence and empathy, knowing your true power lies in self-mastery. This journey is lifelong and deeply rewarding. It turns the battle against anger into a dance with self-discovery. When you integrate your shadow, you don't just avoid being bothered, you transcend it. You live with a profound peace that no external force can disturb. This is the ultimate liberation Carl Jung invites us to claim, the freedom to be fully human, fully whole, and unbreakably at peace within yourself.